What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports Morning Show. I am your host, Mangone, and I am joined by JT Hayes. And JT looks like he's in my grandma's basement right now. I'm not sure where he is. I don't know if he's on a secret mission, but he's got the nice curtains in the background. And we're talking some MLB today. We're talking the not the early only slate, that little two-gamer with the Rockies and the Pirates and the Twins and the Tigers. No, we're not talking that. We're going to talk the afternoon slate, and we're actually going to go game by game, and we'll also talk about the night slate as well. But we're going to kick it off first with pitching, talking about this first one. But JT, before we dive in and talk baseball, how are you doing? And tell the people where you're at.
Doing great down in Florida. Simon made me close the curtains for a little bit better lighting for the camera here, or you'd be able to see outside to the beach, and there's people walking by having cocktails. It's lovely. Beautiful, beautiful day in late May down here in Florida. So yeah, in great spirits down here.
Great to have you in Florida, enjoying your life, having a good time. But we got some baseball winners to get and pick today because, of course, that's what we're here to do. And day baseball is always a good time. We typically have Draft Cheat here. I don't know if I haven't seen Draft Cheat since the back injury. I don't know if he's doing okay, if he's able to stand while doing any shows. But have you seen him on any shows lately, JT?
I haven't. Did see him in Discord and exchange some pleasantries with him. And it's interesting because he keeps saying, you know, I told him I pitched all my life. I still pitch. And he's doubting me. And it's hurtful because now he says, oh, he wants to see, you know, my fastball. And listen, if he thinks sciatica was painful, then what I'm going to do to his hand when he's got to catch me for 20 or 30 pitches is going to be something out of this world in terms of the pain that he's going to feel. So I can't wait for that. Hopefully he recovers fully and we can get him out back into the world and get him back running marathons and things like that.
Yes. And there was talk in the RPS chat about you pitching and like DC drinking noons and hitting this, like, I don't know what this game was called. Some spike. That wasn't spike ball. Some version of wiffle ball where the ball moves. Have you seen the chatter about that, JT? Are you sure that you could strike everyone out at RPS?
Yeah, so I have seen the chatter about it. I don't know much about this game. I think it would be interesting. I think we have, of this group of coordinators, there's maybe, 4 or 5 that are somewhat athletic, and the rest, I think it's going to be painful. I think it's going to be painful. It'd be amusing for people to see some of these guys try and swing a bat. I won't name names, but let's just say I think it would be very entertaining.
Yeah, it would definitely be entertaining, especially with some high noons and everyone. It would be a good time to do that. If you guys could please hit the like, subscribe to the channel, helps us out a ton. We'd appreciate it. And there it is in the chat. It's called Blitzball, JT. So Blitzball is the game, and I'm sure you got a mean curveball, mean fastball that would be tough to hit. I'm not going to claim to be able to be good at Blitzball, but maybe I'll get in the lab before we kind of play. Maybe I'll just go in there and try and figure out how to get good, and then maybe I'll hustle you. Maybe I'll just tell you, hey, JT, I'm hitting a home run off you. I'll call my shot like Babe Ruth. You think I can pull that off?
I mean, that'd be interesting. Listen, I'm not going to make any claims about my ability to play this Blitzball. I first heard of it a couple of days ago. Got to do a little bit of research here, but it seems like it would be something that, as you have stated, would be best served with some alcoholic beverages.
Yes, correct. And Juice 15 says JTK props. He's taking the over. So right. we got some bettors on JT in the chat, which is good because we want people betting on you for this MLB slate. Like I said, we are going to talk about it. We will break it all down. Before we kind of do that, I do want to talk about the Discord chat. We had some really nice hits in the Discord as of late, but I want to talk about how valuable it is. And the other day, I was sitting in Discord and I saw Big T popped in. He just said, "Hey, baseball's going to be easy today. You take Zach, the 2 aces. On top of taking the 2 aces, you play the Dodgers, and then what happens? You print. You play those low-owned A's like the leverage against 50% owned crappy Marco Gonzalez and crush. And that's what happens. So a lot of members were in the Discord chat, and that's some of the value that you get with being in that chat. You get to hear from, Big T talk about his core, break that all down. You also get to hear from JT. He'll be in there breaking down the stats, talking about the XFIPs, the WOBAs, all that interesting stuff. JT, why don't you also tell the people some of the other reasons why they should get in the Discord chat?
Yeah, the premium show now that's coming up to lock for MLB, every single slate. There's also going to be a premium article just debuted this week. It's going to be Glock, AP, myself doing that during the week. Just a rundown of the highest exposure that we're going to have to pitchers and stacks. And that same day, I think the theory of DFS that people talk about, and one of the things that Tony had said was, hey, the Dodgers are going to be popular. So the way to get different here was to go and spend up to Zach Wheeler, who was going to be low owned. I went a different route and stacked the late game because the total was moving up. Oakland, Seattle with Cole Wheeler came in close to the top 10 there. So there's a number of ways that you can get different here. And that's what we're talking about in the Discord right up to lock. And yesterday, same thing, talking about the Dodgers. Dodgers are going to be popular, but you play them with the best pitchers on the slate and then get different with one of those lower owned stacks. And there were a bunch of them that absolutely went nuts the last couple of nights. The Mets, I mean, they lost the game last night. They've lost all their pitchers. So the only way they're going to win is if they score 12 or 13 runs. That's what they did the last couple of nights in San Francisco. Nobody played them. Nobody played anybody in that game. You got 3 home runs from Jock Peterson at under 1% ownership. And that's something we'll talk about because the Giants and the Mets are on this slate. And the thing with the Giants, we've talked about this, and I've seen people in this say, you know what, I'm not playing them because of the pinch hit issues. The lineup comes out late. That provides somewhat of an edge because the lineup's not out. So you have to pay attention later on into the night, but also nobody's playing them. So it's really, really interesting, especially for some of these bigger slates like last night, where that was the highest scoring game on the slate.
Yeah, and Nadesify in the chat, he says that JT's a legend, very sharp. It damn near helped him ship 100K with 2 lineups. So that's obviously things you love to see. Mike in the chat, Mike is bringing the bad mojo. He's saying Big T dropped that 10 minutes before lock, not for the subs. The Big T special to make sure that people are on it. Listen, here's the thing. It wasn't 10 minutes before. I'll tell you the exact time. I remember staring at the clock, JT. It was 30 minutes before. So you had 30 minutes. And on top of that, listen, that's why you're in the Discord chat. Also, what did Big T do? He added everyone. So if you have notifications on, like you should have notifications on for this, Run Pure Sports channel, you get notified when Big T says something. So definitely, not trying to hold anything back. That's not what Big T does. Big T is very transparent, just like everyone here at Run Pure Sports. We give you the core plays. We tell you what we are on and what we're going to do and how we're going to handle the slate. So on that note, JT, let's kind of dive in and talk about this slate and discuss some of the pitchers that we got here today. So let me pull up the early slate. And again, not the turbo slate. We're not talking about that terrible 12:45 slate with the Rockies and the Pirates. No one wants to be at that game. There's no chance that I would go to, I think, a Rockies and Pirates game. So I'll go to anything else. Give me the Tigers, Rockies. Give me anything else. Not that, though. That's probably the worst game you could find. And it's not even in Coors. We don't even get some exciting baseballs hits. We're just going to get, a 1-0 game. But
and in addition to that, the Tigers and the Twins, exciting.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing that slate, you really like day baseball. You are just, if you put those 2 games on, just God bless you. But let's go on over to this early slate and talk about it. And man, open up the slate. This is the interesting part about it. We have the Oakland Athletics on the slate, JT, right? It's the daytime A's, as Stevie Boynton likes to say in the chat, and it's against Robbie Ray. So you get, big platoons guy, Chad Pinder, who homered the other night, who's an all-timer on Big T's platoon team, against Robbie Ray. And Robbie Ray is one of those guys that's going to be very chalky today. Like, he is going to be the chalk, and it's because he gets a lot of strikeouts. And I understand why. You want to put him on your team because he's going to get a lot of strikeouts, but he can blow up. So there's a ton of leverage opportunity here with stacking against him or just fading him. On the opposite side, there's not a lot of great pitchers other than that, right? I mean, Julio Urias, he's a good option against Washington, but again, it's Julio Urias. You never know how long he's going to go, and he can kind of just be annoying to roster. And Yu Darvish is kind of similar. Like, Yu Darvish always feels like a good option until he just gets absolutely blown up. And he's going up against Milwaukee. He can also have walk problems at times. So there's a lot of warts on all 3 of these guys between Darvish, Urias, and Robbie Ray. How do you rank those 3 at the top?
Yeah, so you mentioned it. Robbie Ray is going to be somewhere, at least projected to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 80% owned. Can't really argue with the matchup here. Yes, they hit Marco Gonzalez the other night, but Marco Gonzalez is not a good pitcher. Marco Gonzalez is a guy who is going to have good games when the ball is hit right at his fielders. That didn't happen the other night. But on the season, Oakland has been one of the worst teams against left-handed pitching. So you got Robbie Ray at somewhat of a discount compared to where he was last year at $8,000 on DraftKings. When you look at Julio Urias, there's a case to be made for Urias here. One, Washington cannot hit left-handed pitching. We saw this the other night with Tyler Anderson. We've seen it over the course of the last 2 weeks. They have a 24% strikeout rate, 0.53 ISO, and an 0.55 weighted runs created plus. So they're just not putting any runs on the board against left-handed pitching. Walker Buehler left the game somewhat earlier last night than Dave Roberts certainly would have liked him to, with the Nationals being able to get to him because they do hit right-handed pitching. And so I think there's a case to be made where you might see that fifth and possibly sixth inning out of Urias. He's got his really lowest price point of the year here. Yu Darvish has been better at home, hasn't been all that great on the season as a whole. One thing we're concerned about here is Milwaukee power. And then when you get past him, you've got Paul Blackburn, low strikeout rate, been a decent real-life pitcher, but he's probably only going to give you, if he gets into the sixth inning, that'll be a lot. So he's a little bit lower price point. And you mentioned it here, though. The one thing when you look at these teams and what to expect is, especially on a 4-game slate, you want to get a little bit different. The Oakland A's are coming in at 4% owned. Seattle has had the worst bullpen in baseball over the last couple of weeks. We saw that last night when Oakland got the win, 7-5, getting some runs off of that bullpen. Outside of their reliever and their setup man, if they can get to Robbie Ray earlier here, then the A's could have a big game. And I could see a case where Robbie Ray gets you 20 fantasy points, but there are 3 A's that you can have in your lineup, and that same lineup, because it's a 4-game slate, maybe pair them with a Mets stack. Mets are getting Jacob Junis, who has the highest expected ERA over his ERA on the slate. Or you could pair them with the San Francisco Giants and be different, because the Dodgers are going to be far and away the highest owned stack here. The Giants getting a matchup with Thomas Sapuki, who has pitched exactly 1 game in the major leagues, gave up 6 earned runs in 3 2/3 innings. He's coming off of rehab from an injury and spends a lot of time in the minor leagues. So I think that game is one that I'm going to be very heavy on. And then just mixing and matching here between Ray Urias and Yu Darvish. Aaron Ashby is on this slate, but he's been used as sort of a hybrid guy by Milwaukee. So there's really no guarantee that he's going to go anywhere near enough innings to get you a win to be competitive in terms of being one of the top pitchers on the slate. So it's interesting for a 4-gamer, lots of ways that you can get different.
Well, my question to you with the Aaron Ashby thing is like, it's only a 4-game slate. So this question works for Robbie Ray and Aaron Ashby. It's like, because it's such a shorter slate, can you get away with it, right? Like, can you get away with Robbie Ray possibly giving up like 2 or 3 home runs because there's enough strikeouts where he just ends up being maybe the second best raw points pitcher? And then with Aaron Ashby, like maybe he's just still a decent option, even if he only goes 4 innings, because again, it's only a 4-game slate. What's your kind of thoughts on that with strategy on handling this kind of smaller slate?
I think it depends on how many lineups you're making, because you do have guys in Ray, in Urias, in Yu Darvish, and then to a lesser extent in Paul Blackburn that have that clear 20 to 25 point upside, right? So let's say if Ray, and I guess Yu is probably going to be the second highest owned, but let's say Ray and Urias, because the matchup is so good. Let's say they both get to 28 points and you play Ashby and Ashby goes 5, strikes out 8, doesn't get a win. That might be close enough, and you might be saving enough where you're able to upgrade to a Betts or a Turner in the Dodgers lineup, or one of the higher priced Mets where it could work out. So that's certainly a viable strategy.
Yeah, definitely a viable strategy. And man, we got Mike in the chat. He's spreading bad mojo right now, JT. So you know what we need to do? We need to get those likes up. We got to push the likes home. That way we can get Mike to, start spreading some good mojo around here, because he is very upset right now in the chat. And JT,
I'm not sure. So here's the thing, right? Because Mike is not this isn't his first time here. He usually is in pretty good spirits in the chat. He's usually, making some interesting dialogue with other members, other subscribers. So I'm not sure what's up with you today, Mike, but chill out. And also, guys, right? let's just lay off. Let's not make this into a pylon. We're not bullies in the schoolyard. Mike has his opinion. We disagree, but we respect it and we move on.
Yeah. And instead what we do is we hit the like and we subscribe to the channel. That way you get notified when we go live over here at Run Pure Sports. And let me go through the show schedule for you guys today. That way, you know when to check out all the shows. So we got the Pin Seeker show typically at 3 p.m. So unless there's sometimes a change between Tambo, Uncle T, and Big T, but 3 p.m. today, it looks like it's going to be at. Then we got the at 4:45 for free on our channel. We got the NBA show is going to be on there. So that'll be free at 4:45. So be sure to check that out. And we got the MLB Final Countdown show at 6 o'clock. So tons of great content for you guys over here at Run Pure Sports. And, you do not want to miss out on that. But listen, we talked a little bit about pitching. JT, is there any final thoughts you want to say here about these pitchers? You want to move on and kind of go game by game and break the rest down?
No, I mean, I can't really make a case for the guy that the Mets are running out there. I can't make a case for any pitcher against the Mets or any pitcher against the Dodgers right now. So that takes Fetty and it takes Junis out of the conversation, which I think is helpful because it leaves you with a pool of 4 or 5 guys that you're going to consider, right? Ray, Urias, Darvish, Blackburn, and then Ashby, just because, like you mentioned, the strikeout upside, Ashby is going to come in, I think, potentially as the lowest owned of those 5. So that's certainly a way to get a little bit different, but know that there is some risk there in maybe him only going 4 innings. The difference there with his strikeout upside, maybe that could be enough.
All right, we're going to go game by game to break the rest down. And this slate starts at 3:45, so you get a little bit later time. You got some time to digest this all. So if you need to go grab yourself some lunch, go grab lunch, come back, re-listen to us. We'll be breaking this all down for you guys. And we got the Mets and the Giants, which, JT, you kind of alluded to this before when we were talking about pitching. This is a game that I think you're going to mix and match a little bit. You're going to get some exposure to some of the Giants here against Mr. Tomas. I don't know how to say his last name. I'm not going to try it, so I'm going to call him Tomas. And then we got Jacob Junis, however you want to call it. I like to drop the J's out of there, make them silent. It sounds fancier. So
Yakub.
Yeah, Yakub Yunis. So he's out there, and these are guys I think we can attack, right? Like, I mean, the Mets, we know they have a lot of power and pop. The wind's going to be blowing out 16 miles an hour. It's only going to be 60 degrees, but hey, that's still good, still helpful in our favor. And this has been a park in the past where it's been more of a pitcher's park, but last year when they moved the fences in a little bit, it definitely helped and started to make this a little bit of an easier park for hitting. So you can score runs here in San Francisco. It's an 8.5 implied total. And the Giants against the lefty, like that's a big platoon special, a little Wilmer Flores action, Evan Longoria. There's definitely some good opportunity here with some of these Giants and Mets. Who are some of the options that you're looking to mix and match throughout your lineups?
Yeah, well, they absolutely can score runs in this park. They've scored somewhere north of 40 runs in this park in the last 2 games, these very 2 same teams. And the other thing is this park plays smaller during the day. I can't tell you how many Saturday afternoon day slates, games starting at 4 o'clock, whatever it is, 1 o'clock on the West Coast. And by the 5th inning, you look up and, Giants, Dodgers, Giants, A's, some of these days, and it's 8-7. Because the park just plays smaller during the day. It's warmer in the Bay Area. It looks like it's going to be it's 65 degrees, so not terribly warm, but a little bit stronger wind there than you normally see at night. And I think this is a good game to attack, especially I think the Mets are probably going to be the second highest owned stack after the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm surprised no one's going to go to this San Francisco team because they just keep hitting. And the other thing is they've got some injuries that they're dealing with now. You've got Kevin Podlow, who played for third base last night. So the pinch hit risk is a little bit diminished. That's how you saw Jock Peterson late in the game, hitting his 3rd home run, getting the base hit to win the game for San Francisco. I like both sides of this game. I'm not particularly worried about split matchups here because I don't think you're going to see the Mets pitcher in the game very long. I think that you can go, Roof if he's leading off, Wilmer Flores. Yaz is now looked to be at a point in this season where he's splits proof, meaning that he's safer later in the game. So lineups here are going to be important. Expect those lineups to come. The slate starts at 3:45, 3:43, something like that, because of the way that Gabe Kapler does it. But like both sides of this game, the Mets, man, I keep saying and thinking this run is going to end. They've lost all of their pitchers. DeGrom hasn't pitched an inning. I don't know if he will this season. Scherzer's out for 2 months. Tyler McGill on the IL. He may or may not be back this season, depending on what that injury is. Their ace, because he's the only guy left, Chris Bassett, gets absolutely shredded last night for the second time in a month against this team. And yet they just keep scoring runs. That's what it's incredible. Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso on one of the craziest runs that I've seen in a long, long time. He keeps saying this team is going to cool down. I don't think it's going to happen today against Jacob Judith.
Well, JT, I'm a Mets fan, and I'm going to say that's bad mojo, okay? You're being very hurtful to my Mets, okay?
I'm a realist, man. I'm a recovering Mets fan, and it's been painful to watch this franchise, and now to see them, and I'm friends with a bunch of Mets fans. They're all giddy. Oh, look at us. We've got an 8-game lead. Oh, look at us. We got a 9-game lead. Oh, look, the Braves lost. Oh, look, the Phillies lost. Don't get too excited. This franchise has a way to fuck things up every single season.
I can't wait to see my boy Tomas, whatever his name is, Tomas pitching in the World Series, JT. That's what's going to happen. The Mets are going to be out there wheeling and dealing with no arms. That's what's going down. So every game is going to be a bullpen game. But hey, it'd be fun to see the Mets get there. At least I'm rooting for it.
All kidding aside, this is probably the first time that Buck Showalter has had a team with this much veteran talent. And I have to say, he has done one of the best managing jobs considering the injuries that they've had earlier in the season, managing all those new faces. I got to give credit to Buck Showalter. He's done a really good job. And then Hunter, why do I look sunburned? Because I've been running in the Florida sun, my man.
Oh, yeah, the Florida sun, it's hot down there in Florida. So they don't close it for anything, JT. It's always open. So glad that you got a nice little run in today before you get out those winners. And sounds like this game's a winner to you. Sounds like definitely a game that you want to get some exposure to. Let's head on over to the next game. And hard to argue with this one. Dodgers and Nationals, and Eric Fetty's on the mound. And Eric Fetty is not very good. I've heard you say that one too many times, JT. And the Dodgers, they're a team that, man, you get 9 innings out of them. You also get them in Washington. Wind's not blowing out. That's the only unfortunate thing. It's 70 degrees, though, so that's at least some decent weather. But overall, Dodgers got an implied total above 5. Overall, it's an 8.5 total. So a lot of runs are expected to be scored on the Dodgers side, and they're expensive. Now, obviously, it's a 4-game slate, so salary isn't as difficult to kind of get those guys into your lineups. But this Dodgers lineup definitely has some powerful bats that you might want to get exposure to. How are you handling the Dodgers? Are they a fade for you today, or are you loading them up on your teams?
So it really depends on the lineup. Steve Boynton, one of our guys, made this point in Discord earlier this morning. Mike, if you are a member or want to be a member, go in. You can get the point that Boynton made, which I'm going to give you now for free, which is day game. Dodgers have been smashing. Big potential here for Dave Roberts to sit some of these regulars, maybe sit down at Betts, maybe sit down at Trey Turner, or Justin Turner, what have you. And if that's the case, then it makes the stack more affordable. It also gives you some, at least, consideration. If you're playing multiple lineups, to say, is this a spot where Eric Fetty at 6.5 can do enough to keep these guys down to 2 runs? And maybe this isn't a spot where you attack the Dodgers simply because they're going to be 25 or higher, 25% owned or higher on this 4-game slate. So the lineup here is going to be pretty important, because depending on how many of these starters they sit, then it becomes a decision of, do I want to just plug in the guys who are starting today because you know that those other guys are going to get the day off? Or is it a spot where you want to look elsewhere for offense and maybe pick up a one-off from the Dodgers here in this game? As far as the Nationals, they're going to be unowned on this slate. And the one thing, earlier in the season, it was very obvious. There were a handful of teams that were scoring runs. The rest of the teams absolutely were not. Now we've seen something happen. Who knows? The weather, the balls, whatever it is, runs are being scored. Talked about how the Giants and the Mets last night were 1% owned. I personally think Urias this is a great matchup for him. You wanted to get a little different on a 4-game slate, throw in one random Washington lineup. I don't advise it because of the way that the bullpen for the Dodgers is. Looks like I have to say, it looks like they're the best team in baseball. Don't think anything is going to slow them down other than potential injuries down the road. So That's probably the way I'm handling it, is looking at waiting for that lineup to come out and then making my decision then.
Hey, you bring up a good point. I mean, lineups are going to be important today, right? Because, hey, it is a day game. There's a travel day. So sometimes they give guys off. So don't just set those lineups and then go to your work meeting. Don't just set those lineups and run in the Florida sun, JT. You know, you have to make sure that you see who is in the lineup. That's going to be really important today. So make sure to do that. Make sure to get in the Discord chat and see, who our guys are on. Maybe there's a surprise option in the lineup for like 2K. Maybe there's someone I've never heard of, right? Like my boy Tomas over here. Maybe there's just a guy that is hitting the lineup that you're like, oh, I got to play him because, hey, he's like this prospect that maybe Stevie Boyton knows about that's being talked about in the chat. So that's definitely one reason alone to be in the Discord chat where you learn a lot about kind of the sport and just newer stuff. Because, hey, I've been busy watching a lot of NBA. So MLB has not been on the forefront of my mind so far right now. But let's dive in over and go and talk about this Brewers and Padres game. It's only a 7 implied total, so really low run total. But you talked about it before, JT. Like, Darvish has not been that great this year. He's a guy that can give up walks, can get blown up. And when guys give up walks and blow up, that leads to 3-run home runs. And, I like when we get some 3-run home runs on my team. So definitely could be a spot where people are not on the Brewers, where they've been one of the hotter offenses lately. So do you think a Brewers stack is viable here against Darvish, or are you maybe more interested in the Padres side of the ball?
Yeah, you mentioned it here with this low total. It is an over, minus 120 over 7 here. I think primarily we'll stick to, if I'm going to get anything from this game, it'll be 2 or 3 man stacks of the guys with power. Thing about the Brewers, haven't been striking out nearly as much as they were earlier in the season over the last few weeks. 19% strikeout rate, 159 ISO, and a 120 weighted runs creation plus, which is 3rd on the slate. So they do have the ability to score some runs. They did just that last night against Blake Snell, even though Snell pitched reasonably well, especially for his price. So it's a game that it's going to, for me, be left to the secondary stacks, not a focal point here. But once again, talking about stacks that are going to be lower owned, it's going to be very low ownership on both the Brewers and the Padres, but very good bullpens behind these two guys as well. Milwaukee bullpen fully healthy now, and the Padres went through a little stretch where they were skidding, but they have been elite over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a game that looks super exciting, but hey, it's baseball, right? 4-game slate, game theory, anything can happen. So I wouldn't rule out this game, and I wouldn't rule out the Brewers side specifically, just because I know what Darvish can do. And, Brewers bullpen can typically be a pretty good bullpen, right? That's the other thing too. If you know Ashby's only going to be going 4 games, then they can kind of play like, okay, if they're going up against, the toughest part of the lineup where Machado's there, well, they can put him in their better bullpen arms. So, and of course I get it. Teams are not typically, they're always going to try and put out their best arms, but it's more so like we've seen it with the Rays all the time when they kind of only pitch guys like every 2 innings. You don't get to see a guy for a while, and you want to be going against that pitcher that just blows up and they leave out there and just getting absolutely destroyed. That's kind of one of the more ideal scenarios in MLB DFS. So let's head on over to the next game. Let's talk about the Oakland A's and the Mariners. And we can talk about Robbie Ray and those Oakland A's price tags. They are cheap. So let's say you are going to load up on some of these bigger Dodgers bats. Maybe you need to mix in some A's. Maybe it's Sean Murphy at 3.5K. Maybe it's Jed Lowry at 2K. There's definitely some options here that you can go to on the A's. And then the Mariners side of the ball, I think Paul Blackburn's been really good. And he's not someone I'm trying to pick on, but it is also only a 4-game slate. So, and there's some good options on the Mariners, right? This lineup, it's definitely more loaded than it's been in the past. Like last year, Kyle Lewis, he was out there hitting in the 4-hole. Now he's hitting more towards the bottom of the lineup. I mean, this is definitely a way better Mariners team than we've seen in the past. So JT, are you playing some Mariners, or maybe you're playing some cheap A's as one-offs here and there to help kind of fill out your lineups? What's your thoughts here?
Yeah. So like we talked about in the open, right? This is not a 12-game slate. And we know that Robbie Ray, there are 2 things, likely outcomes that are going to happen. One is, yes, he's going to get his strikeouts. He's also going to put some guys on, and it's more likely than not that one of these guys is going to hit one out of the park, right? So even if he has a really good game, even if he just rarely has those pristine games. He did when he was pitching for the Blue Jays. You can see a difference now that he's not in that organization. Whatever it is they do to make their pitchers good has not carried over. So we're back to Robbie Ray of Arizona, where you know that the strikeout upside is there, but you also know that the home run upside is there for the opponent. And the A's have been better over the course of the last 2 weeks particularly against left-handed pitching. So it's a situation where on a 4-game slate, I think it's perfectly reasonable to say you could play 2 or 3 of these A's and you could play Robbie Ray in the same lineup. Again, would never say that on a 12-game slate, but on a 4-game slate, if you wanted to full stack San Fran or the Mets or the Dodgers, depending on that lineup, you want to do it with Ray, you want to do it with Urias or Darvish, or you want to go to Ashby and get crazy, fine. And then you could put in some of these guys. Chad Pinder hit a home run the other night. Jed Lowry hit a home run last night. Sean Murphy is always dangerous against left-handed pitchers. Elvis Andrus hit a home run last night. I mean, turn back the clock completely with a bomb to left field. So I think it's viable here in terms of playing some of these guys with Robbie Ray, getting your expected 20 to 25 points out of Ray, but he also gives up 3 or 4 runs while he's striking out 8 or 9 guys along the way. As far as the Mariners, they are getting healthier. Kyle Lewis, welcome back. So that means some of these guys who are just terrible, like Taylor Trammell, shouldn't be in the lineup hopefully today. We'll see if they sit him, given that he just returned last night, give him a day off, a day game after a night game. But I think here, the biggest thing that stands out to me in this game and why I'm interested is these bullpens. On the slate, these are 2 of the worst bullpens over the course of the last 3 weeks. And so if you get Robbie Ray out of there, if you get him to throw a lot of pitches and he's gone in the middle of the 6th inning, Blackburn, we know, is only going to go 5 or 6 innings. Then maybe there's an opportunity for these teams to put some runs on the board. Another park here that always seems to see a few more runs scored during the daytime as well.
Yep, definitely going to be a good game that you can get exposure to. And I like the calls with like, hey, like if you want to play Robbie Ray and you want to get an A's bat in there, like you can do that. I don't think it's a bad way to go. And I typically like to do it as position if I'm like punting it, right? And one position that sometimes punt is like catcher. Now, Sean Murphy at 3.5, it's not necessarily a punt, but like just might have a lot of salary left over anyways, where it's not a big deal because, hey, you're going to have to play catcher no matter what. And like catcher is not a great position. So it's okay to play like your catcher against the pitcher. I don't think it's like the worst idea on this 4-game slate. You can get away with it. So that's kind of my thoughts there on that. JT, this is what we're going to do. We had 105 watching, 51 likes. So let's wait for some more people. We got 30 minutes. Let's wait for some more people to kind of get in here. We'll get those likes up. We'll give out our plays of the day for the early slate after, and we'll talk about the main slate now for the people. So happy to talk about that, break that all down. Does that work for you, JT?
That sounds perfect. And then there's a lot of discussion where the guys in the chat are talking about all sorts of crazy things and not talking about the actual sports or the application of DFS. One thing I will say, as someone who puts in cores a couple of times a week, I put in cores for a number of different lineups. And until you do it, until you have to decide and make your decisions of, okay, these are the guys that I'm most confident in, and this is the team that I'm going to play for the most part of my lineup. It's a really difficult thing, especially for us. I know I'm speaking for myself, but I think most of us feel the same way. If we're putting these out and giving them to the members, we want them to be good plays. We want them to do well. And so for me, I know, especially in baseball, sometimes my core is the last one to go in because I'm looking at last minute, lineups, line changes, evaluating pitchers, things like that. And it's a difficult thing. So while we want to get them out as early as possible for the members, there is a great deal of care and thought that goes into it, which sometimes make it not as easy to get it out there early.
Yeah, no, of course. And it's one of those things where like, hey, let's say I put my core out 3 hours before, JT. Well, what if it changes? Now I have everyone tilted at me that it changed. I mean, there's so many different sides to it, but obviously we're doing our best to try to be as transparent as possible. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help you guys out. That's all we're trying to do here at Run Pure Sports. That's why you got to get in the Discord chat. That's why it's important to be there close to lock as well. So let's dive in. Let's talk about this main slate here. So this main slate, it's definitely going to be a nice one. 5 games. I see there's already some weather there in that Philadelphia and Atlanta game. So that's definitely important to watch for. So monitor for that. That could change your opinion. Just because JT Hayes says he likes the Atlanta and Phillies game at 9:35 Mountain Time doesn't mean if it gets rained out, he's still stacking it up. He might change his opinion on it. So we'll talk about all these games though. Let's talk about Tyler Wells. Let's talk about JP Sears. This is the first game. We'll kind of talk about the pitching as we go along. I doubt this is a spot that you're loading up on the pitching. Yes, the Yankees, they can strike out with the best of them, but they can swing and hit home runs with the best of them as well. So you could take a shot on a guy like Tyler Wells. I don't think I will. Are you going to take any chances here on this game with a 7.5 total here, JT?
Well, certainly not John Patrick Sears. Doesn't look like he's available in the player pool as of right now. So the starter for the Yankees. But I will say this. We talked about earlier in the week, or me specifically talked about playing Jordan Lyles. And Jordan Lyles pitched well against the Yankees last week, pitched well against the Yankees earlier this week to the tune of 24.75 DK points at just 5.8K and 3% ownership. The reason why is because of the injuries that the Yankees are dealing with. And now when you see Giancarlo Stanton leave the game early last night, that means that all of a sudden DJ was a late scratch yesterday. So now this lineup could have just Judge, Rizzo, and Gleyber Torres, who had 2 home runs last night, as the only 3 guys you have to worry about. And on a slate where you may lose a couple of games here, you may lose some pitching options. You may lose Morton. You may lose Gio. So now, you're looking at a guy who's just 5.3K, Tyler Wells, who's pitched reasonably well. If you tell me that that he's facing a lineup where I only have to worry about 3 guys, and the other guys are these guys like Marwin Gonzalez, Estevan Florial, Aaron Hicks, who hasn't hit the ball in 6 years, and Rob Brantley, yeah, I'll have some interest here in Tyler Wells against the Yankees team, just because there's only a handful of guys you have to worry about.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a game that, hey, if you want to stack up the Yankees, I won't tell you you shouldn't, but I don't think I need to target Tyler Wells here. I think there's other spots that I think I'm going to go to here on this slate. So let's shift on over to this next one. Let's talk about the Phillies and the Braves. We got Ranger Suarez. We got Charlie Morton. I know you love to talk some Charlie Morton, JT. But hey, this game again, it could have weather. We get it. So, we're going to talk about the game like it's normal. So Ranger Suarez, not really a guy that I've been on that much this year. Don't think I need to go to him. I think you could target him with some bats if you want to, like Ronald Acuna, William Contreras, Ozuna. Like, the Braves are a team that I like attacking when they're on against a lefty. Like, this is a good spot to play some Braves. They're definitely in play. They have not been as great this year, but this could be the spot, or maybe it starts happening. Maybe they start exploding. And then Charlie Morton, not really a pitcher I ever really target. I more so play, and it could be a good spot to go to him. I see a lower implied total here for the Phillies, so that's encouraging. And the Phillies are kind of similar to the Yankees, where they have a ton of good power bats, but they can get a ton of strikeouts. And you got Charlie Morton here, who can strike out a bunch of guys. He has not been as great as last year, but he's been pretty solid this year. It looks like it's coming on a little bit more over the past 3 starts too, so that's encouraging to see. What's your thoughts here on this one, JT?
Yeah, I think the one thing that stands out to me about this game, and we saw it last night, is this Philadelphia bullpen is not good. And it hasn't been good for several years. They keep trying different combinations, and they just simply aren't working. So I think Ranger Suarez is a fine enough pitcher. I don't know that I'm going to be all that interested in him on this slate in this matchup. The Braves haven't gotten it going yet against left-handed pitching, but at some point, these guys, specifically Ozuna and Austin Riley and Adam Duvall, who historically are very good against left-handed pitching, that's going to come around. Ozuna looks like he's coming out of what was a very slow start to the season, couple of home runs over the course of the last week. Morton, to start the season, I was thinking maybe I was a year early on the Charlie Morton is Lovato talk, but he's picked it up, and you have to remember he's coming off a significant injury of that broken femur that he suffered in the World Series. He looks like he's got his stamina back and has been pitching really well. And I think 9K is a fair price point against the Phillies, who can strike out. And again, you're talking about another bottom of the order here, guys like Odubel Herrera and Bryson Stott, who you're just not all that concerned about.
Yeah, definitely going to be a game that, hey, you can get some exposure to. I don't think it's a bad one. But this next game, this is the one I want to talk about. I want to talk about the Astros, and I want to talk about the Guardians because, hey, I really want to attack Kyle Quantrill. I don't think he's very good. I also like playing the Astros. I mean, their lineup is absolutely loaded. When you can back Kyle Tucker in the 6 hole, and I know our guy Stevie Boyd will love this in the chat, talking about Kyle Tucker. When you can attack him with Kyle Tucker in the 6 hole, get him at lower ownership, that's the stuff that I like to see. He's also expensive, right? 4.9K. Sometimes people don't want to pay for him. So I'm excited to play some Kyle Tucker today. Yordan Alvarez, he's another guy that I like to roster. I don't think Kyle Quantrill is any good. On the opposite side, Christian Javier, I mean, he's been pretty decent this year, but he definitely is not my favorite pitcher, right? I don't think I need to load up on him. It is a 5-game slate though. So what's your thoughts on Christian Javier? Like, we know he has some blow up potential. He can end up in the negative. So, and this is also a Guardians team that they're not a team that I typically like to target with pitching. They've been pretty good about, like, not striking out a ton. And on top of that, they've kind of been a deadly offense this year. So overall, JT, what's your thoughts on the pitchers? And then what are you doing with the batters in this game?
I think Javier will end up being popular just because of the lack of pitching options. And we want, as we saw last night with Framber Valdez, really much more prefer left-handed pitchers against the Indians team when you have to turn some of these other guys around to the right side of the plate. It doesn't work out all that well for them. With right-handed pitchers, they just don't strike out enough. And there have been a couple of guys who've had big games against them, right-handed pitchers, but for the most part, it ends up being a middling performance here. Javier pitched really well his last time out, where he was popular also. I expected he'll probably be popular here. And one of the things we've been talking about, right? It never fails when we're talking down about a guy, saying a guy's not going to do anything. And yesterday in the Discord, Steve Boynton talking about his guy, Kyle Tucker. He's got no home runs at home. No home runs at home. And we had another guy say, no, I think he's going to be fine. And sure enough, never fails. Kyle Tucker, 3-run home run last night. Finally, his first home run at Minute Maid Park. So it is more of a pitcher's park. It always has been more of a pitcher's park, except for that season and a half where, they had the trash cans and whatnot. But I think you really can look at both sides of this game for offense. Just a mini stack on the Cleveland side. Jose Ramirez has been playing out of his mind lately. Another home run last night. Looks like he wants to challenge Aaron Judge for that MVP award.
Yeah, and man, you know what I was thinking just now when you talk about the trash cans? We have some talented Discord members, JT. I need a picture of K Phallic banging trash cans, right? That's what I need in the Discord chat. I mean, can we get a member to do that, JT Hayes?
I think we can. I think there's plenty of members who can put together maybe a nice GIF of K Phallic banging some trash cans. We gotta put someone in the trash can though, so we got to figure out who that should be as well.
That's a good point. Definitely, we got to get someone in the trash can. That'd be perfect. I need K Phallic gifts from the Chart Man, which the Chart Man's been doing some work in NBA. JT, he posted charts the other day in chat for the old Miami game, and the Miami game's tonight, and there's some injuries. So hey, Chart Man's doing his job, thankfully, these days.
I mean, those things are so valuable with the injuries, and you know what? It's the way that he plays that you get to pick up on when you spend time around him is. And it's very useful for the larger slates in NBA is he wants to target those games with shorter rotations where that certain guys are out or guys are going to be, that never come off the bench. And what he does, very valuable when you have a playoff game that's going to be impacted by injuries. And he knows, because he does the research and the legwork to figure out who is coming off that bench and who is going to get the majority of the minutes. So big kudos to our guy, the trash can banger, K Phallic.
Yeah, and if you want to, hit him with the right? He always loves getting the Tell him thanks.
He does. He does. You should do it right now. In fact, if you're one of the 102 watching and you're a member, just go into any Discord channel and thank K Phallic for his work, and also wish his daughter a happy birthday. It's her birthday today. Just let him know.
Let K Phallic know. Everyone would love it in the chat. Do it in the NBA chat, all the different chats that you can. But let's go on over to the next game. Let's talk about the Red Sox and the White Sox. And we had Giolito and Rich Hill on the mound, which Giolito, I expect him to be a popular option. Red Sox are on the road, and they've been a lot better at home. So that's kind of encouraging if you're going to roster Giolito. The one thing that with the White Sox that's a little frustrating is they're dealing with a little bit of a COVID situation. So Luis Robert, I know he is out. So you're going to have a little bit of a more watered down White Sox lineup tonight. JT, are you playing some White Sox against Rich Hill? He can be a soft toss and lefty that you can take advantage of with a guy like Jose Abreu, who's only 4.3K here in this spot. I doubt you're playing too many Red Sox, but are the White Sox in play for you?
Yeah, so this is another game where weather may impact this game. Looks like there's going to be some rain. Other than that, looks like a good atmosphere for baseball if the rain holds off. Good atmosphere for hitting. Giolito's been good, but Dylan Cease has been very good. And the one thing about this Red Sox team is scored 16 runs last night. This team is hot with something along the lines of a 260 isolated power over the last week and a half. and they've been putting a hurting on right-handed pitching. They did it to Logan Gilbert the other day. They absolutely destroyed Dylan Cease last night. Makes me a little bit nervous to go to Giolito at 10K, especially remembering that this Red Sox team has had success. Who can forget the Patriots Day game that Giolito pitched 2/3 of an inning and gave up 8 earned runs just last year? So I will, unlike last night, look at those numbers and take them seriously and maybe throw some Red Sox stacks here, especially if Giolito looks like he's going to be popular. It's just a price point that he has not pitched to in an offense that is just clicking on all cylinders right now. As far as Rich Hill, coming off of a tough outing against the Seattle Mariners, where he gave up a couple of home runs, a bunch of runs. And you mentioned it, the White Sox team, we expect them to be really, really good against left-handed pitching. You and I talked about this a bunch last year and the year before. If there was a lefty on the mound against the White Sox, we were always playing White Sox bats. That hasn't worked out so far this season, but you have to believe it's only a matter of time before they get going. They did put up a couple of runs late in that game last night. So this has an interesting game stack potential with the weather there. If the rain holds off, 74% humidity, and one very hot team and one team that should do very well against left-handed pitching.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the White Sox, they have not been as great against lefties this year, but yeah, I feel like even ever since last year, I feel like they've been like hurt. Like it feels like all the time. And they started getting a little bit healthier this year. And then of course, Eli goes down, and it's been a little bit frustrating for sure on the White Sox side. Cause hey, this bottom of the lineup, like it's Grandal, Moncada, Leury Garcia, like get Leury Garcia out of the lineup for me. Like somehow I hate seeing him in that White Sox lineup. Adam Engel, like Josh Harrison, like it's just not a sexy bottom of the order, but that top of the order, like if you want to do like a Tim Anderson one-off, I don't think it's a terrible idea. Definitely not a bad option to put in your lineups. Something that I'll be looking to get some exposure to for sure on this slate. Jose Abreu at 4.3. That's a really cheap price tag. So there are some White Sox that I think you shouldn't ignore on this slate. Let's move over to the next one, and let's talk about the Rangers and the Angels, and it's the last game of the slate. So guys, push those likes home. Subscribe to the channel. That helps us out a ton. We got 69 likes right now, which, we love to see that, and got 108 watching. So we'll give out those plays of the day afterwards. But yeah, we got the Angels and the Rangers are talking about here, and Glenn Otto's on the mound against his Angels team where, man, they've been absolutely crushing it this year. Jared Walsh, Rendon, Trout, Ohtani. That's like a 1 through 4 that does not want to be messed with. And then that Rangers side of the ball, they're going up against Reed, Detmers, but they got some pretty good options, right? Mitch Garver can hit lefties really well. Adolis Garcia can. Marcus Semien, he has not had the greatest start to the year, but hey, he can turn around at any time. And Corey Seager, he can hit anyone, lefty, righty, it does not matter. JT, what are you doing with this game?
Yeah, you mentioned it. Garver hit a home run last night. Jared Walsh hit a home run last night. Other than that, a little bit disappointing the game last night. I think it stayed pretty low in terms of total. And then Marcus Semien, he got paid, and he just doesn't feel like playing baseball this year. Yeah, Detmers no-hitter a couple of starts ago, and then followed it up with a pretty good performance against the Texas Rangers. Have to imagine that there's going to at some point be a little bit of regression for him, where a few more balls are going to get put in play and a few more runs are going to be scored. Don't know if it's tonight, but Otto actually hasn't been a terrible pitcher. I just am not going to be interested in taking him even at that price point against the Angels. So I can see getting to maybe some mini stacks here on the Texas side, and then with Anaheim, the Angels full stack here against Otto and a bullpen that's been one of the worst in baseball to start the season in the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, definitely going to be a spot that you can attack. Like Glenn Otto is not a very good pitcher. So, hey, these Angels too, they've been good. So don't ignore them as a stack. Maybe they come with lower ownership because it's the later game, right? That one starts at 9:38 Eastern, and the other game's starting at 7 o'clock. So that's something you can see on these smaller slates. If some of these games don't have lineups right away, well, they could gain some lower ownership, which could be very valuable for sure on these slates. JT, we got about 10 minutes until we're at the hour mark. So I think we've done a good job here on this show. We can give out those plays of the day for the people. They got 75 likes with 111 watching, JT. Are we able to give out those plays of the day?
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm pleased with that.
All right. Well, before we do that, let's at least let's give out those stacks, but also want to mention the members never win segment because, hey, we didn't do that yet. So let's talk about that because we had a ton of people win over here at Run Pure Sports over the past couple of days. We had the TYA 558 he won the $1 million. So he's a member here at Run Pure Sports, won the milli in PGA. So congrats to him. The Log Show won $50K. We had Tambo won $125K, one of our coordinators in PGA Showdown. I did a show with him yesterday about it. So you don't want to miss out on that. And then I'm doing a show tomorrow with Titletown, who he won an MMA live final ticket. So we'll be talking about that tomorrow. We'll talk about some basketball as well. So you do not want to miss out on that. TMR6, he won $27K in NBA and NHL. Rye Guy won $10K in PGA. Mac 2 Services won $10K in MLB. And then and Howitt won $3K in MMA. So tons of winners this past weekend over here at Run Pure Sports. And if you haven't signed up yet, go use that code PJ50, get you 50% off your first payment. Does not include Saberson, but includes all the rest of the stuff that we have over here at Run Pure Sports, the core plays, the playbook. And you do not want to miss out on all that. And we got tons of PGA content coming to you today, because today's Wednesday and Thursday is when all the PGA golf starts up again. And you want to get on that. You want to check out all the showdown shows that we have coming up this weekend as well. But JT, give me the stacks. Who are you looking at on this early slate? Which teams are you stacking up?
Yeah, I'm going to go with, I mean, it's hard, really hard not to like the San Francisco Giants against this guy who's, the one game I could find where he pitched in the big leagues, gave up, I think it was 6 runs, something like that, and 3 2/3 innings. So
that's Tomas. Tomas is a great pitcher. James.
Yeah, Tomas Sapuki is going to get Sapuki'd out of Oracle Park today. So I like San Francisco as a stack. I like the Mets too against Junis and a very, very tired and what has been a not very good San Francisco bullpen over the last week and a half. So I like them. And then, the Dodgers are going to be popular, and that's fine. And I'm going to have some of them. But I'm going to say Oakland A's mini stack here. Oakland A's mini stack. You can even put Ray in that same lineup. And I think that is maybe the way to go. Maybe a Mets or a Frisco and Oakland pairing on this 4-game slate takes it down.
Yeah, I think I'm going with the Giants and the Dodgers. I'm going to do a little Giants-Dodgers stack up on this slate. That's kind of what I'm looking at. Don't know if I'm going to go 5 Giants or 5 Dodgers. Let's wait and see the lineups, right? It's going to be very important here on this slate. That's another reason to be in that Discord chat over here at Run Pure Sports. That way you can get notified when the lineups are out and everything like that. But my play of the day, JT, I'm going to go first, and I'm going to take a Giant, but I don't think you're playing this Giant. I think I didn't steal your play. I'm going with Brandon Crawford. People don't like to play the lefties, right? But hey, who knows how long Mr. Tomas will be in there? And we can get the tired bullpen, and Brandon Crawford is a guy that I'll roster against anyone. Lefty, righty, it does not matter. He's a great hitter. He's only 3.7K. So give me Brandon Crawford as my play of the day. JT, who is the Eiffel Tower play of the day?
Yeah, and Crawford hit a home run last night as well, starting to get hot. And I think we're on to something here, Travis, because it looks like the ownership is going to be really heavy Dodgers-Mets. Got to love these Giants here. And I'm going to go righty-lefty. I'm going to go with Darren Roof. He has been on fire lately. He's been hitting homers against lefties and against righties. Had a 2-homer night about 3 or 4 nights ago. And I think he gets it done here in San Francisco, pending that lineup.
Yep. Love to see that. We'll have our core plays posted in the Discord chat and on the site later on. Once we get these lineups, that's going to be super important. I'll post a core as well for the good Run Pure Sports Morning Show mojo to keep that moving along. So excited to have you on, JT. Give your final thoughts and, let us know what you're doing for the rest of your day in the Florida sun.
Yeah, just going to hang out, maybe go to the little pool bar down the road here and watch some day baseball. Hang out and enjoy the rest of the day.
Well, day baseball in the pool bar, that sounds like a good day to me. You're living the life, JT. So apply some sunscreen on that bald, beautiful head of yours so you don't get, too much sunburn. People will be very nervous the next time they see you in the chat and you're all red. So make sure to put some sunscreen on. But that is going to wrap it up for us, guys. Be sure to check out all the content that we have over here at Run Pure Sports going on today. Again, 4:45, we'll have the NBA show, so be sure to check that out. Then we got the MLB final countdown show at 6 o'clock. You don't want to miss out on that. And also, I forgot to mention 3 o'clock. We got the Pin Seeker show with Big T, Tambo, and Uncle T. They'll be breaking all that down. So you do not want to miss out on that. That's why you got to subscribe to this channel over here at Run Pure Sports. Hit the like out the door if you guys can. We would appreciate it. But that's going to wrap it up for us. Thanks a lot for joining us here on the morning show. For me, Mangone and JT Hayes, we will see you guys later.